Hi, it's Tracy. Hello and welcome to my home here in Sussex, England. Now, this is my most requested episode. We are going to do a home tour, but not just the house. We're going to include the guest cottage and all of the grounds, a full property tour, all in one episode. We bought this property back in 2016 purely because of its location. It's in such a beautiful spot. It's calm, it's tranquil. When we moved in, the removal men thought they had the wrong address because this is the house they were moving us out of, and this is what they took us to. Yes, everyone thought we were mad, but this is what we've created. And as always is the way with these types of renovations, there's been a lot of blood, sweat and tears shed over the years, and a lot of fun and a huge amount of creativity. And I find the tighter I make the budget, the more creative I am. The brief I gave myself when I was designing the property was to bring that New England style back home to Sussex. After all, it all started in England anyway, but via Texas and the deep south. So that took care of the exterior vibe. Inside, because it was so dark and tiny little rooms, I wanted to create light, height, brightness, space, and a calm, neutral colour palette. For new viewers to the channel, meet Bertie. He is in all the episodes and quite frankly has an international fan club now, and doesn't he know it? The whole kitchen area was built from scratch. That's part of the extension works that I did. My husband is 6'4", so I wanted to create particularly high ceilings in areas around the house where I could. The actual design of the kitchen all stemmed from this bench. I found it at an antiques fair. It was in a field and I fell in love with it. Kept it in storage in what was the site office and is now the guest cottage, and then just designed the whole kitchen around it. I added another island with the sink in, and then just used base cupboards. I never use wall cupboards. Because I'm so short, I struggle to reach anything. So I build floor to ceiling larders, which hold a multitude of items. Now the electric Everhot here, it's a 4-oven range, which I actually bought secondhand. It was black and I had it coloured up. The same with the fridge freezer. That came from my last house. It was black and I had my shop blasters 2-packet, so they sprayed it the colour that I wanted. The wall here I built exactly to the measurements that I wanted in order to fit that dresser on. And the same with the positioning of the doors, because I wanted this mirror in particular to sit exactly in that spot. Now, I didn't have a dresser for this space, but I made sure that I could easily slide in a 5-foot dresser. All the radiators that you see around the house are cast iron. They were all bought on eBay. This one was 99 pence. Took them all to my shop blasters and he worked his magic. Now out onto the veranda. This was the first thing that when I was writing my list of what did I want from the new design, I wanted a covered outdoor space. I don't know why we don't build them in England. Now I know in hotter climes you build them because you want the shelter from the sun. Here we don't get enough sun. We get lots of rain though, so it's a lovely way to be able to be outside and not get wet. Personally, I think every home should have a covered outdoor space. I just think it's so good for your mental well-being just to be out there communing with nature. And as this is south facing, it's always a warm spot. So even in the winter, you know, you get some sun out and it's a lovely spot just to cuddle up with a blanket and a hot chocolate. And here's what it looked like before. Now I'm conscious that I'm not going into detail about the furniture, about the styling in particular. I have actually got detailed videos on all of that. So I'm going to link different rooms and areas of the house in the description box below and put videos next to them. So if you do want that extra detail, please do check down below. Now let's go into my office. or sometimes we call it the study. So either of those terms basically mean this space. So this was originally a toilet, and it was a very, very small garden room. So I've taken down walls, I've taken off the roof, I've vaulted the ceiling, added lots of glass, added window, mirrors, doors, all these things that just make the light flood in and give a sense of space. Now, Bertie obviously has his office bed in here. He likes to sit there whilst I work. And I also have, I would like to say, a business chair. It's actually my snoozen chair because I believe in power naps. I do love a nice 10-minute nap. Through a glazed door now, which again lets the light flow through into a reception room that we call the snug. So this is a room just off the kitchen. There's no TV in here. It's very much a sit down and chat room, fire on in the winter. We'll maybe sit, read a book and have a cuddle with Bertie on the sofa. Now, aside from the office door, there are no other doors here. So I've gone for a broken plan as my design downstairs. So I've taken out part of the wall that leads down to the kitchen, and then on the other side, the wall that would go through to the hallway. There was a doorway here, I've blocked that up, and I took out the French doors here and used a picture window, which incidentally works out a lot cheaper than putting a door in. The mantle was already here. I took that off, had my shop blasters go over it, and then I finished it off with white wax. The wood burner, there are actually 3 wood burners in the property, and they were all here when we moved in. So that saved me a pretty penny or two. And I do love to recycle, reuse, repurpose. The whole house is full of auction finds, eBay finds. It's all thrifted decor. So let's leave the snug now, go across the hallway and into what we call the winter sitting room. It's a room that we don't use during the day, really. It's more of an evening or a winter room. It's on the oldest part of the house. This area goes back to the early 1700s. Where the bookcase is, there was the original staircase there, but I've resited the stairs. The ingle nook, that didn't change position. That was about the only thing in the house that didn't. And there are some lovely old beams in here that I've lightened. I did look into having them stripped back to the natural wood, but it just was not going to be cost effective to do so. Back into the hallway where I sited the new staircase, I created a double height space here by taking apart basically 4 different rooms. This was the most disruptive, intrusive part of the build because my husband and I actually lived on site. We never go off into other property or rent another house while a build's being done. We get down and dirty. We're not frightened of peeing in a bucket, darlings. And yes, that probably was a bit too much information for you, but hey ho, that's me. Now, this door has quite a backstory to it, but let's open it up first and see what's behind. This is my laundry room, and it was originally the main kitchen in the house when we moved in. So I spent 18 months having this as my kitchen. I also have to share it with Bertie and his ever-growing collection of toys. I'm currently training him to put them back in the basket as well as take them out. I've got a Sheila's made for hanging up the damp clothes, and they're absolutely brilliant. I love them. I've also popped in a television into this room so my husband can watch it while he's doing all the ironing, as he once criticised my technique in ironing. The ironing board, mop, vacuum cleaner, that type of thing, they're all kept in a cupboard here. Back to that sliding door. Now, I salvaged this from my last property. It was very leaky. I needed to put another period door on. So I took it off the tower. This is where it was originally. And the tower goes back to early 1600s, if not earlier. But look at the lettering. Look at the carving on it. Does anybody know what that means? Now, this sink unit here came from eBay, and I've just used Annie Sloan products to colour it up. And some doors that I found here, I just ripped down to cover up some electricity meters. Going round now to the dirty side of the house, but I love this part because I tiled this floor myself and it's the first one I ever did all by myself. I tiled bathrooms before, but not a floor. Having a boot room when you live in the country and you've got a dog is an absolute must, quite frankly. And this is how it looks all of the time. I have not tidied anything, styled anything. I'm giving you a realistic tour. You know, everything you're seeing is how we live, how everything looks on a day-to-day basis. And for all those people, actually there's not many, just a few people have said, oh, I'm sure you just pull it all apart once you've made your video. Well, darlings, I don't. Let's go up the apples and pears, up the stairs, and we'll have a look at the galleried landing and the double height space that I created. You need something chunky and focal, and lighting is really expensive to buy, so if you can't buy it, make it. I took this beam out creating this space, got the shop blasters to clean it all up, trimmed the ends off, worked with the electrician to hang it and drop all the pendant lights down. Super simple, cost-effective solution. Now let's start on the bedrooms. We're going to start with bedroom number 1. This is part of the extension works, so I had free rein on my design here. Again, I've gone with a big vaulted space. I want impact, I want drama. Do you remember the flat roof I talked about in my office that I'd taken off? Well, it is now a headboard. And the spiral staircase, that goes all the way up to a mezzanine dressing room. And up in that dressing room, we have the most beautiful views out over the gardens. All the windows I've tried to create just wonderful vistas. So that's why there are no curtains, apart from a door curtain, because the door can be a bit leaky in the winter months. It's very old. We're not overlooked here either, so again there's no need for curtains from a privacy point of view, and the house is nice and toasty. We are packed full of insulation. I've never actually done an episode on the build of the main house, so if that is something that you would be interested in, please do let me know in the comments below. At the time I wasn't on social media, so I wasn't really filming myself because quite frankly I was knackered. I was doing so much myself and working 7 days a week, so it's basically shots that my husband's taken, series and series of photos, just showing that whole transition. But if that's something you would be interested in, do let me know. So we're going to leave bedroom 1 now and go into number 2. Now, number 2, I didn't want a narrow corridor, so I put double sliding doors on. So when there's nobody in this room, the doors are kept wide open, and that allows the light to trip through. Bertie has a bed up here because he refuses to be downstairs on his own overnight. And quite frankly, I don't blame him. So this is part Bertie's room, part my husband's dressing room and bathroom, because frankly, darlings, I don't share a bathroom, and I certainly don't want to share my mezzanine dressing room. And if you have an opportunity to have separate facilities from your spouse, I would highly recommend it. 33 years we've been together and it works. But what is not working is the colour of the furniture in here. This has got to be changed. Makeover's coming soon. To create this bathroom, I actually nibbled a little bit off the whole master bedroom area so I could get that lovely vault there. Because remember, hubby is very tall, so he needs space. To bring light in, I added a sun tunnel as there's no window. They are fabulous for if you've got a central room that doesn't have a window, investigate whether or not you could put a sun tunnel in. They're not expensive to buy and they are relatively straightforward to fit, especially in an upstairs room. So let's leave bedroom 2, or Bertie's room as it's known, and move along to the remaining 3 bedrooms up here. Into number 3. Now, I'm often asked about designing small spaces. This is a very small space, but just because you've got a small space doesn't mean to say you can't add some character. I got my local sawmill to cut me a big slab of timber here and hung that on a sliding door mechanism, and it acts as almost like a piece of art in the room. Behind that, I've created a very small closet, but it's a closet nonetheless, and plenty of shelves along with an ensuite bathroom. Using open shelving and hanging space as opposed to putting a wardrobe and a chest of drawers in really makes the most of the space available here. And of course, mirrors and white walls always help, along with the generous ceiling height because the floor is dropped here. So let's come out of 3 and go into 4. Again, very old part of the house. Look at that sexy curve there. That's actually the flue, the chimney, coming up from the inglenook in the sitting room. Now this originally was where the stairs came up. The wall, I had to push it back slightly to make it a bigger space, but this was a landing with the staircase, and there were lots and lots of beams in this area. Again, I've lightened all those up and created a walk-in closet and an ensuite bathroom. This space is made to feel very bright, very spacious by the placement of the mirrors, all the light coming in, no blinds knocking any light back. Again, there's no need to because we're not overlooked. The shelves are made from an ash tree that had ash dieback that needed to be cut down. So I've used them in here and in the bathroom in bedroom 2. Now let's go round to the very last bedroom here, which is bedroom 5. Now I call this my dumping ground, but not dumping for boxes and rubbish, basically dumping for very expensive red leather chairs, which I was going to paint, and then I rang the company that actually made them for us and found out how much it would cost to make them again. So they are not getting painted. We're talking many thousands. I'm also dumping pampas grass in here because I don't know if I love it anymore. Are you still styling with pampas grass? I did ask that before and it was very much a 50-50 split. So at the moment, this guest room has pampas grass and red leather furniture in it. Unless, of course, we do have a guest that needs to use it, then of course the pampas will come out. There is something else in this room though that I've never shown before. If you lift up that hatch, it reveals this beautiful big void up here that would make a fabulous room. Now, these timbers will date back to 1700s, all original beams. I haven't done anything with it because I always think you need to leave a little bit of development for the next custodian. Let's go outside and look at the gardens and the cottage. Welcome to the cottage and the kitchen courtyard. Now we call it that because all 3 kitchens converge here. It's in close proximity. So you've got the house kitchen, you've got the kitchen in the cottage, and you've got the outdoor kitchen. This was built from leftover materials. We challenged ourselves to actually construct it without buying a single thing. Now, I've recently done a video on how this whole cottage was transformed from a site office. So again, I'll link that below if you're interested in seeing the whole build. So we use this as a guest cottage. We don't rent it out. I do get asked a lot of times, do we Airbnb? We might do in the future, but you know, at the moment, we're just enjoying the privacy of what we've got here. We are a shoot location house, so the whole property is available for hire for TV work, film work, photographic work, and the cottage is a great green room. It's great for models to come in, to get changed, to do hair and makeup. So if you're in the industry and you're interested in exploring hiring the property, there is a link in my bio through to my management agency. Now you may be thinking, well, you've just said you enjoy the privacy, so how come you do it as a shoot location property? Well, firstly, you don't get regular work doing that. It's very ad hoc. Secondly, we just move out and we're exclusive with the agency, so they manage the whole process. So from the cottage bedroom, you go through out onto the veranda. I've just recently done a full makeover on this area, which you can see in the episode just before this one. So this is all very recent, all very new. Again, as with everything you're seeing today, all the furniture, all the decor, it's all thrifted. I have pieces that I've had for many, many years, and I just keep reinventing them, repainting them, stripping them back. The only store as such that I ever really go into is HomeSense, TK Maxx, or TJ Maxx as it's known in the US. But even that, I'm visiting less and less these days because I find that the charity shops in particular in my local area are so good. They're such good hunting ground. And the vintage French Bateau bath here, yes, it is plumbed in. It has got hot and cold feed, and we do use it. Let's come off the veranda now and start working our way around the grounds. Now we have quite a few fruit trees here. This is a big old apple one. I love the gnarly old trunk, but I really don't know how long it's going to last because it's hollow inside. Moving around from the apple tree, we've got an old pond area here that I've turned into a fire pit. And on from that, there's some old staging. I think the previous owners were going to build like a Wendy house here, and I've turned it into a cut flower bed. Now, the gypsophila here has been well and truly gone over. And to my shame, I can't remember what I've planted here, but I do know these are sweet peas, and the more you pick, the more you get. The scent is heavenly, so through the summer months, we always have them in the house. I've just sown some stock at the front there and another 5 little beds of gypsophila, and with the warm weather that we've been having just lately, they're starting to sprout. I do get asked what this hedge is, and it's Leylandii, and then the big hedge that we have running right the way across the land here, which only ever gets trimmed in the autumn, that's all mixed native species. When we did the big build, we had to take a section of it away, and so I've recently replanted, picked up an old door off eBay and hung that there for no other reason than it just looks a bit decorative. The gardens are laid out like a series of rooms, a bit like the house if you like, a broken plan. You move from space to space. Everything is interlinked and there's no one set pathway through. I love grouping all my pots together. I love the aesthetic that it creates, but also it's practical. It just makes watering so much easier. This is predominantly hydrangeas and they're all free plants. They're all grown from cuttings, which I take every year, generally around July time. And then I just keep growing and potting them on. I don't put them in the ground. Well, to be honest, at the moment, my beds are really chocker. I need to create some space before I start putting some more in the ground. But generally, I would leave it about 2 or 3 years in a pot before transplanting into the ground, just the way I like to do it. I often get asked, how much help do we have here? How many cleaners do I have? How many gardeners do I have? And the answer is, I don't have any. My husband and I do everything between us. So we divide up the work in the house and the work in the gardens. We have a few big giant flower beds around. I don't get too precious over them and I just let them grow as they want to. So this is a Japanese Acer, which I absolutely love this. It does something all year round. It's always interesting to look at. And up there, just by the side of my office stroke study, is my Annabelle hydrangea. Now that's just starting to open up and it's so productive, this bush. I take cuttings from it, I cut the flowers and decorate, and then I dry them and then use them throughout the rest of the year. A couple of sun loungers normally live up here, but at the moment I've got those on the lawn and I've got this rickety old bench which I do need to take apart and rebuild. But it's lovely to sit there in the morning and have a little cup of coffee next to this big white hydrangea. Now I've got quite a few of these in big galvanized tubs at the front of the property by the front door, and they all flower pink. So in a few weeks they're going to be in full bloom. So we'll come back and we'll revisit them when they're all flowering. This pink geranium here is ready to be cut down again. So I take it right the way down to the ground in July and then it comes back really quickly. So you get a full second show going out into the autumn, and it desperately needs doing because there are so many other plants underneath coming through. As a rule, I don't use any insecticides here. I just let nature take its course. But last year I noticed that all the box hedging that we've got around was starting to get nibbled and depleted. So this year I've been using these two products to encourage the regrowth, if you like, and to get rid of the caterpillars that were destroying it. I mean, they really were decimating it. So I think if they're just having a little nibble, that's absolutely fine. But if they're there and they're going to absolutely wipe out something, then sorry, not having that. So those two products have really worked a treat. I will link them below because you can order them off Amazon. After all, you don't want your balls bald or your bush ravaged. Welcome to the shed room, or shed city as we call it. We've got 3 of them down here, where 2 of them are falling apart and one I put in just as we moved in. Now this one just has all the garden paraphernalia, all my old pots, lawnmower, and some random ornaments that I found in the garden when we first moved in. Each to their own. The next one is the biggest one and houses a lot of my furniture, things that are waiting to be revamped, reused, things that won't, be damaged down here by being in a shed. It is actually really quite full at the moment, so I can feel a DIY home decor video coming on very soon. I think we need to make over quite a few of these items. So are you up for that? Would you like to see one of those? Drop it in the comments below if you'd like me to do one. I do actually need to desperately get these 3 sheds repaired and coloured up. I keep saying every summer for the last couple of years, right, that's on my to-do list, and I just run out of time. But this year is the year I will make time to get them done. I'm not going to do anything to this log store though that I built out of old scaffold boards, apart from give it a tidy up, I think. This one does need a little bit of repair. I don't really want to just pull them down because they're such useful storage, and I'm very conscious of only spending money where I absolutely have to. Now, whilst we're on the subject of storage, let's nip back over to the drive. I've got a double garage here, which has got a room on the top as well, and great storage. Now, something I've probably not shown you before is my architectural salvage yard. Basically, it's a dumping ground for all those leftover building supplies that I just think that will come in useful one day. So I keep hold of it, and it's all screened off in this area. So yes, it does look really ugly, but nobody can see it, and I love having a good rummage around it. And I know at some point in time, I'm going to be able to use panes of glass that came out of the cottage, or maybe breeze blocks, or some very old bricks, a Victorian fireplace, or even get round to putting mirrored glass into these metal French doors that I'd picked up off eBay for £30. Back on with the garden tour. So we're going to leave the shed room and go through to the orchard room, which also houses a golf cage. My son's a professional golfer and coach, and I just cleared out a little bit of space here to put up the cage. Hubby plays golf as well, so it's a nice practice area for them. We've got fruit trees in here, which are not doing very well this year. We've got apple, pear and plum. So there's not really a lot of fruit to show you. I don't know quite what is going on, although the squirrels and birds do seem to have put weight on recently. We're going to head into the field now, past some trees that I planted a couple of years ago. These are Leben. Bertie wants to show you his very happy place, so come with us into our 2-acre field. Now for the build, I did have to create some hard standing. So because, as I mentioned before, we are a shoot location house, this is handy overspill parking. So I've kept the gravel there. This field is full of wild grasses and flowers. So we just mow pathways through so we get to use it, but the wildlife, the insects, the flora and fauna get to enjoy it as well. A lot of my decorating, my styling uses nature, and this is a wonderful supermarket to shop. I often say I shop my garden, and I do. We've got twisted willow here, the corkscrew willow, silver birch, we've got oak, we've got beech, all sorts of different trees. There's a whole myriad. Now, what's that, Bertie? You want to go and show them your favourite spot? Yes, here we go. We've also got a stream. Now, regular viewers will know about this. If you're new, we have a stream that runs the full length of a boundary. And of course, if you've got a Labrador, you have a Labrador with its own private stream. You have a very happy dog. We have an abundance of wildlife here, all sorts of creatures. Deer come through every day. We've also got a family of badgers. Now, we live in harmony with them. They stay down this end, we stay up our end, and Bertie is trained not to go near the badgers. We also have a deck by the stream with a campfire. It's made from the pallets that the house cladding arrived on. But in the interests of transparency, I told you I'm giving you an honest tour. This is currently how it looks. I didn't get around to doing it last year. It is in really quite a state. So this has been added to my must do this summer job. We've got a lot of work to do. I always have a lot of work to do here, but if I've got a lot of work to do, then you know I'm going to be filming lots of that and sharing all those ideas with you. Thank you so much for being here. I do hope you'll join me for another episode. Take care.